Hello again, and welcome to another episode of the Fun Fans Podcast. I'm your host, James Dillard. With me, as always, and always ready, Mr. Bailey Coach Jackson. How you doing, Bailey?
I'm good. Just another Sunday. Finally get some rain in it. There's a bunch of yellow stuff everywhere. I don't know what that is, but maybe we can talk about it.
Snow and pollen around here. If you're from this part of the country, and definitely the state of South Carolina, you know what we're talking about. Finally did get some rain, which is awesome for the fires that have been going on not too far from where I work and not much further away from where I live for sure. But we're going to talk about some fun stuff on the show. We got the sadness that happened to the Tigers since we've been on here 2 weeks ago. We'll talk about our stories which relate to Clemson's quick exit. We're going to do a fun, not fun segment on the dance so far, and spring football is upon us. But first, the Fun Fans are a proud part of Greenville Sports Media Podcasting Network. If you're a true sports fan, Greenville Sports Media is perfect for you. Find various nationwide podcasts, the latest articles, and other sports media at greenvillesportsmedia.com. Those guys can also be found on all forms of social media, just like the Fun Fans. The Fun Fans podcast is the official podcast for Clemson fans.
Yeah, and Ruben's Food, Sports, Spirits, and Catering is the official spot for Tiger sports fans and all sports fans. The best wings around, with 2 locations in the upstate, 1083 Batesville Road in Greer and 11028 Anderson Road in Piedmont. You can find them at rubensc.com. Again, for all sports fans, it's a great place to eat. Go check them out.
Hey, and they cater too. So if you're looking for, I see a lot of times, especially this time of year, folks are looking for caterers. Check out rubensc.com. All right, so the Clemson Tigers' historic season, and I'm not going to be that guy. I mean, there for a minute after the loss, of course, you're thinking that ruins the season. But even the people like me will get over that really quick. I got over it really quick. Some people may have taken them a day or two, but it was a historic season, and not just because we scored the least points in a half in the NCAA tournament. We did have more wins than any other time in the season. But Bailey, you never know. That's why they play the games, right? That was not expected.
Yeah, I mean, it's like Coach Brownell said, we picked a bad night to play our worst game. But if you remember, and if you go back last year when everybody was panicking because they started out with some unbelievable record and then they lost 3 or 4 in a row, there are lulls in the season. Every basketball team has a lull, with maybe Duke as the exception. All right. But the lull just happened the last 2 games of the year.
At the wrong time.
Yeah, that's just when it happened. And, I read all this stuff, and they can't believe you gave Brownell a contract extension, yada, yada, yada. They scored 13 points and a half. He got them the open shots. They did not make the open shots.
Well, it's just like the show we had right before going into the dance, which was after the ACC tournament. They just couldn't. It just could not get the ball to go through the little orange circular thing that holds the net.
That is very critical.
Yes, it comes in handy. Everything there, you're a shooter. I've played basketball, and there are some days, that one night I scored 20 points in the intramural basketball game at Clemson, but most nights, it wasn't like that. So even for the folks that hit most of their shots, there are some nights the other way around. So it just, that's all there was to it. So on to the fan part of the story, though, at least for me. So this is my story real quick on, we definitely want to watch the game. It was a 3:15 tip off.
Yeah.
3 something. All right. So, and we were on spring break. So you would think I would have no trouble being wherever I wanted to be to watch the game, right? Wrong. I had jury duty. So I'm going into jury duty Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, but until you've done jury duty for that particular type of court in that particular county or state, you don't really know how, and people don't do it enough to know how it goes unless you're a lawyer or something. So I wasn't really sure exactly how it was going to go. I'm like, am I going to be free on Thursday afternoon at 3:00? So we go in Tuesday, and I find out that we're in a pool, right? It's a jury pool, and we sit there while they talk about whether they're going to actually go to trial or not next door. And if a case comes to trial, they come over and they pick a jury of 6 of us from the pool, and they have their trial. And they do that they were going to do that 9:30 and 1:30 each of those 3 days. So every time, every time you come out, even if you're chosen, you come back. So if you're chosen in the 9:30 session, you still have to come be part of the pool at the 1:30 session. So I go and do my civic duty Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And in the 5 sessions that we had so far, building up. So this is build up. This wasn't near as bad as my anxiety in the traffic heading to a football game, but it was a thing, right? Because am I going to get chosen? Because if you didn't get chosen, they would just dismiss you. By 10:15, we're walking out the door, just got to come back at 1:30. The 1:30 one's by 2 or 2:15, we're walking out the door, whatever, no big deal. Just be back at 9:30 the next morning. So in the 5 sessions leading up to that last session, which corresponded with Clemson's NCAA first round basketball game, there had only been 3 trials. So I'm playing the percentages here. And so far, when they chose the jurors, I had not been one of them. So quick probability question for you, Bailey. Does that affect the chances of me being chosen as a juror in that last session?
I don't know. I mean, it depends on if you've already been picked for one, are you eliminated for future?
No,
or do you go right back in the pot?
Yeah, which makes I'll give you the answer, which makes every choice in every jury being the chances of being chosen mutually exclusive. So there was no benefit or it wasn't better or worse that I hadn't been chosen. And we're sitting there and some people came in like lawyers or somebody. So it made us think there was going to be a trial. So I'm like, oh man, and I'm on the edge of my pew, that uncomfortable pews or whatever it was they had us sitting in Spartanburg County Courthouse. Very nice new courthouse though. And then the judge walks in and he says, all of the cases have been figured out, or whatever the word is they used. And thanked us for our service again and everything. So I was the first one out the door and on my way to watch that game. I was so excited to watch my Tigers play. So,
yep.
And we all know how the rest of the afternoon went. Were you able to watch the game?
Yes.
Were y'all on spring break?
No.
Okay.
No, I mean, I was sitting in my chair.
At the house.
Yeah, I mean, I ended up going back to work after the game, but it ruined my NCAA tournament experience this year. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
I'm proud of the effort. Great comeback,
Sure.
But same thing against Louisville. Same thing.
Yeah.
But you just, like I said, you're gonna have ups and downs, and the down was just at the wrong time.
Wrong time.
Now, the problem now is there'll be a totally new team there next year because everyone's jumped in the portal.
Okay, so not to talk too much about potential controversy because we don't know. Apparently, the kids, there have never been a sign that the kids hadn't liked Brownell. He gets the extension. That happens at the end of the season, and all these kids start leaving. But that's not the way things are nowadays. You can't. People are on social media like something's wrong, something's going on.
That's not a Clemson issue.
Yeah,
it's a societal issue.
Yeah, and we weren't super similar from a personnel standpoint as we were last year. Well, we lost a couple of players this year that they were going to be gone anyway, graduation, whatever. And then you lose another handful to the portal, and that's your whole team. It's gone.
Yeah, I mean, so a record number of kids jumped in the portal. Like the previous high was last year, like 291 basketball players got in the portal. This year, it's almost 800 or over 800. It's ridiculous.
Oh, wow.
There's nowhere for them to go. Like Jake Hydebreeder. Okay, you jumped in the portal. Why?
Right.
You have a spot at Clemson.
Yeah, I don't know.
You're going to get to play in the ACC, and I'm telling you, I'm not sure you should be playing in the ACC or not.
Yeah, there's that. So, well, either way, we are to the Final Four. The Tigers are out, unfortunately. And now that today's games are over, the Final Four is set. And we need to check on this. Still makes it interesting when you enter a pool. So Sean Reed is currently the leader for that $25 gift card to Rubens. So if you didn't enter these brackets, then that's just too bad. There goes your chance at winning that $25 gift card. But I've been all over this thing. I jumped up to number one for a while. But then when Houston beat Tennessee, I got a little frozen there, and Sean took off, and even my daughter jumped me on that one. So she had Houston as well. So you see Jillian's doing pretty good, and Ryan. But there's the top 9. Why you can't see
I could be number one in the two bracket challenges I'm in, but I haven't checked it since Clemson lost.
Well,
I'm serious. It's ruined my NCAA tournament experience.
I believe you. So, but that said, there are some fun, not fun. We do this every once in a while. We have a fun, not fun segment. So, first of all, just covering the past 2 weeks, something that was fun. My family and I attended the Clemson alumni spring break, or at least one portion of that. This was not this past Friday night, but the Friday night before, and ran into Alumni Association employee and Chester native Bubba Britton, and former podcast guest, one Bubba Britton. And that was a fun night. We were they had bands in the street and everything, and it was a good old time. Not fun was the jury duty. That I'm sorry. I did my civic duty, and I did it and all, but there wasn't anything fun about it. Another fun thing is buzzer beaters, which there have been a handful of, not too many, but not fun has been those late tip-offs. If it's like 9, if they're scheduled for after 9 o'clock, they're usually going to be later than that anyway. And it's like, who's staying up? I know some people are. I'm not. I've missed entire games because they don't start until 9:45 or something.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on who it would be. If it were Clemson, I'd watch it. But it's late. The game Friday night, one of the games tipped off at 10:10, I think.
Oh man, that's
my bedtime.
Yeah.
But when that happens, West Coast folks are like, why are the games at 4:00 in the afternoon? You know what I mean?
Yeah, or when they started at noon, it would have been at 9 o'clock in the morning, I guess, when they started like that. But you know what you can get to make it through any of the games? Some energy. Go to w.gg, enter promo code FUNFANS for 10% off of your Jitterless energy drink. I got me a new supply in for the spring. I see some people need a little afternoon coffee pick me up, but I don't like coffee when the weather's warm, so I definitely prefer the W when it's time for that. All right, so there are a couple of things NCAA bracket related that I got to get Bailey's wealth of knowledge and or opinion on these things. So I got 3 quick questions. I had 2, then I had a bonus. First of all, the play-in games. Okay, there are 4 play-in games. 2 of them are for a 16 seed, which makes complete sense. There are 4 regions. Okay, so 2 of the regions have play-in games for a 16 seed, but then 2 other regions, or maybe the same regions, I don't know, but they play in for an 11 seed or a 10 seed.
Yeah, 11. So those are the last 4 people in the tournament. The last 4 at-larges in the tournament. The 16 seeds, the ones playing for the 16 seeds are the last 4 automatic qualifiers, the lowest 4 automatic qualifiers.
Okay. So the ones playing in for the higher seed that are going to be seeded higher than people that were automatically in the tournament, those were automatic qualifiers.
No.
No.
If you're going to be an 11 seed, North Carolina was one of the last 4 tournament teams. If you look at Joe Lunardi, it says last 4 in.
Yeah.
First 4 out, next 4 out. The first 4 out are playing in that play-in game for an 11 seed.
So they're going to go in the bracket and be seated higher than 5 other teams. Why didn't they just bump everybody and have the 15 and 16 play for the 16 seed?
Because they don't do it that way.
I was so okay. I was hoping for
because those teams should or should not be in the tournament.
Okay.
All right.
So the team, if you take North Carolina, for example, they had to do a play-in game, but then they get seated higher than even in their region, they get seated higher than 5 other teams just in that region. So really, theoretically seated higher than 20 other teams in the tournament.
Because they are higher than 20 teams in the tournament.
So why didn't they get in and some of them other 20 teams do a play-in?
They're all,
you see what I'm saying?
Qualifiers. They're automatic qualifiers. It's the Southern Conference champion that's in there. It's first.
Okay.
It's
okay. I mean,
I
get why the play-ins play in the 4 that are chosen to play in for 15 and 16. But why don't they do? You get what I'm saying, right? If you do any tournament and you have that one extra team, it's usually I'm gonna say worst 2 teams that play for that bottom spot. But this has it set up where some mediocre teams, let's say, but they play in, but then they get a middle spot. So there's no reason for that other than we think they're better than the other teams.
Well, I mean, it honestly, Clemson's been in that playing game before. It generates more interest for somebody turning on their television on Tuesday night to watch a couple playing games.
Well, now
it does. North Carolina is better. Like, it's not 1 through 64 make the tournament. It's 1 through 40 something make the tournament. And
right.
Then you got automatic qualifiers that are in there. And then so you give those 4 teams that are right on the edge a chance to make it.
Okay, so but like when North Carolina went in, they didn't just necessarily go in ahead of other automatic qualifiers. If that's the case, that kind of makes sense. And I don't know, maybe it was, maybe it wasn't.
No,
anyway,
they were not. They had to play their way into the tournament.
Right. So I still, if anybody out there knows the answer to that question, from a seeding,
you just heard the answer to the question.
Yeah, for interest, from a strictly seeding standpoint, that it implies that North Carolina and whoever it was that they played were better than the other teams in their bracket, but they had to play in to get in for Thursday and Friday. Anyway, all right, let's move on to topic number 2. This is a hot issue. The lack of Cinderellas this year. Folks are blaming that on the transfer portal, NIL, saying it's bad, some saying it's good. Bailey, what do you think?
I don't know that I disagree with the people that say it. I don't think the Cinderellas are going to happen anymore.
That's what folks are saying, and that's kind of sad. But then what the folks are saying, it is sad, and it in a lot of ways it's not good. But at the same time, you're talking about generating the argument against that is the bigger name schools are going to generate more eyeballs and more interest.
Right. But when you check, this is the most ridiculous time ever in college sports.
This is true.
And these guys are now free agents. So if I'm at a low mid-major or a mid-major and I go to the tournament and I play 2 really good games, I'm in the portal because I'm going to go to another place. And I don't get it.
Well, and apparently no teams, really, even once we got past the first weekend, there were no, I don't know if there were any mid-majors left. It seemed like the Sweet 16 was made up of all like Power 4, Power 5 conference teams or whatever.
Yeah, and even like, okay, so BYU, that's going to be the new Cinderella. They were a 6 seed.
Yeah.
And all 4 number 1 seeds, by the way, are in the Final 4.
And that's okay. So maybe that's just good seeding, and that hadn't happened since 2008. And to tie that into this argument, one of the 4 that year was Memphis. Memphis be considered a mid-major, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the fact they were a number 1 seed, it keeps them from being a Cinderella. So maybe they'll be that mid-major team, but if they're that good, they might not be a mid to low seeded mid-major team. So who knows? Yeah. And like you say, they are definitely not going to have the same roster the next year if, one of those mid-major schools goes through and makes it to the Great 8 or something. Those kids are going to be going to a bigger school. All right. Bonus question. Have you noticed all the quarter zip? I wore this quarter zip in honor of, it seems like, coaches, basketball coaches, you guys, y'all used to dress up with the shirt and tie and the coat and everything. But now, and I know our friends down in Columbia, the Gamecocks, their coach, he was new last year. He was big on the quarter zip, but it seems like all of them have jumped on the quarter zip bandwagon. Have you noticed that?
They've been wearing them.
Okay, so one thing I noticed, have you noticed anything different about the quarter? This is definitely different. Anything?
No.
A lot of them don't have a collar. The coach from Duke last night, he had a quarter zip, but it didn't like this one has a collar. It didn't have a collar. It had a little sleek. I mean, I think
called a blade.
Nice.
That's called a Henley or a blade collar.
Yeah. I thought that was that's getting to be a thing. So anyway, that's been a thing. All right, cool. Quarter zip.
Yeah, I mean it. I've never understood why basketball coaches dressed up. I mean, I used to do it. I never understood.
All sweaty. Yeah.
Gym gets hot.
What was the guy from Wisconsin there back in the day? He wore a sweater.
Oh, Bo
all
Ryan.
the time. Sweater vest.
Rick Majerus.
Yeah, that was great. All right. Enough about basketball. It's baseball season and it's almost football season. But speaking of baseball, the Tiger baseball team, those guys are doing great. They're 26-5, 6-3 in ACC. Since we've been on here past 2 weeks, they've taken the series from Georgia Tech this past weekend and from Wake Forest the weekend before. And as Bailey knows, and if anybody knows, they know, those are two really good baseball programs. Georgia Tech actually whooped us in the middle game this weekend, but it don't matter. A W and an L is still two W's and one L, even though we lost that second game like 18-2 or something. So baseball team is rocking. And then the spring game is this Saturday. All right. And I meant to do this at our last show, but the game designations for football season have been announced. So this coming fall, when we play LSU, it's Land Grant and IPTAY Day. That's a very momentous occasion, I think. September 6th against Troy is Football Reunion and Paul Journey Day. Mm-hmm. I used to know what Paul stands for in the Paul Journey, but it is seriously escaping me right now. September 20th against Syracuse is Family Weekend. Now, that's very important for me and Bailey this fall, right, Bailey?
That's it.
Because we're family again. We've been there, done that, and we're going to do it again.
We're going to run it back. We're going to run it back.
We're sending our babies over. October 18th against SMU is Breast Cancer Awareness Day. So that's also an important one. Can you wear pink and orange? Does orange and pink match? A little bit. Get some Clemson pink. November 1st is homecoming. That's always fun. November 8th against Florida State, Hall of Fame Day and extra yard for teachers. Now, that one sounds new to me. Have you ever even heard that one before?
I've heard of the extra yard for teachers program, but I don't think I've known it to be a day.
Think they'll put us on the field?
No.
Okay. Just checking. And, of course, one of our favorites, November 22nd against Furman, is Military Appreciation and Senior Day. If you have not been to a Military Appreciation Day during a Clemson Tiger football game, you need to put that on your calendar, and you need to get there. All right, the parking and tickets coming out. We talked about this a little bit last time. And the last thing about football, and I could be wrong, I don't know the stat, but based on, like we said, based on the way college sports are nowadays, I don't think it's a far-fetched thing to think that our quarterback, Cade, is probably going to be the only third-year starter at the same school in the country.
Could be.
That's pretty odd nowadays. So now whether that'll help us be better or not, who knows? But
Clemson's going to be way better.
All right.
I'm just telling you, they're a top 5 team, and they're going to be.
So that was the next question. Is it too early to get it? When I start talking about football this fall, I start to get excited. Now I think we're going to be pretty good. Is it too early to worry? Do we need to dial it back? It's only March 30th.
I mean, no, I mean it is what it is. They've got a ton of guys back and picked up a few good transfers and a few good recruits.
That's right. Dabo went into the portal.
Yeah, I mean, he'd been in the portal before. They hadn't signed anybody.
Yeah, I know.
You gotta. I love it. I love it that he only takes certain players. You gonna do it our way. If you come to Clemson, it ain't about the money. We're gonna pay you, but it ain't about the money. It's about the experience. It's about the fall journey. It's a Clemson football initiative.
That's right.
That's what it is.
And look at how many we lost. We also retained more players than anybody in the country as well. So
correct.
That speaks to the way Dabo does that. So all right. So speaking of spring, we're coming to you every other Sunday throughout the spring. We look forward to it. So our next show will be 2 weeks from now. We are still looking for 2 more sponsors. So if you or you know someone who wants some exposure and support, we love sharing folks' social media posts to our social media following and giving them shout outs on the show here. But if they don't want to spend a fortune, they can reach out to us. So very much hope you enjoyed the show. Please enjoy the Final Four. Get to your school's spring sporting events. You got to have got out happy birthday. 2 twins, Jalen and Drew. We will be back in 2 weeks. Thanks again for checking us out. Don't forget to click subscribe on the Fun Fans Podcast YouTube channel, as well as your favorite podcast platform. Follow us on social media and please share. Reach out and become a sponsor on behalf of the Fun Fans Podcast. Jay Thriller Entertainment, Greenville Sports Media, and Bailey Jackson.
Always a great day to be a Clemson Tiger. Don't forget that.
Amen. Go Tigers.